Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This game is from the USA Championship, which just wrapped up on October 26th. This game is between Wesley So with the white pieces and Aleksander Lenderman with the black pieces. Now, this was quite a long game, and so we pick up approximately halfway through the game where Wesley So on move 39 um, I'm sorry, move 40 rather has just played G takes F4. This is, of course, a drawish looking position, but there's some pitfalls here, and it's basically due to the nature of the pawn structure. Um, so, and the bishops are of the same color. Normally, if you're the defending side or the weaker side, you want to try to keep your pawns off of the color of your opponent's attacking bishop so that he can't win your pawns, obviously. So here you can see uh, white has a white pawn on h3, which um, he can just move to h4 at any time. So although his pawn is on a light square, it's really of no danger to him because at the right time he can even use it as a time gaining method by just moving h3 to h4 at any time. Conversely, Lenderman with the black pieces does not have the same advantage comfort here because his pawn on a4 cannot be moved to a3 at any time. Obviously, it will be captured. So his pawn being on a light square is a major liability. Now, and it plus it being so far advanced in White's territory. So um, this is a problem that Black has to worry about. But is it enough for White to win? Well, we'll see. But the basic plan for White is to try to round up that A pawn if he can. Perhaps put the bishop on C2 and bring his king around to A3 and win the pawn on A4. However, the problem with that idea is that if Wesley tries to bring the bishop to c2 and walk the king over to the a file, then Lenderman's king is free to just penetrate via the e or d file into the white position, or go across the f file to the g file and h file and win that pawn also. So what Wesley So does is he comes up with this really nice plan in order to shut down Lenderman's chances on the king side before he goes to attack this pawn. So let's see how play continue with that in mind. So Wesley So played king d6, king e3, bishop e8, bishop e4. So Wesley just takes the center. Bishop d7, and there's the attack on that pawn, but again, it's not a big deal. So plays h4, bishop goes back, and now bishop b1, bishop c6, king d3, and you'll see a lot of shuffling around of pieces for the next several moves. Bishop b5, king e4. And so what Wesley's doing here is he's threatening, of course, to penetrate onto the white king side, winning the f pawn and the h pawn. So Lenderman comes back and plays bishop d7 to block the king. Now bishop a2, bishop c8. Of course, he has to stay on the c8 to h3 diagonal as long as the white king is on e4 so that the king cannot go to f5. And the reason why Wesley so stays on the a2 to g8 diagonal is so that Lenderman's king cannot get over to the king side also. So bishop f7, and they play this game of cat and mouse here. Bishop c4, king c6. Now, when king c6 is played, Lenderman is one further square away from the e file, so this allows So to now remove his bishop from the a1 g8 diagonal. So he plays bishop e2, and now king d6. And again, black can't move his bishop off the c8 h3 diagonal because of the move king f5. So he really has no other choice but to move the king. So after bishop e2, he moves the king back to d6. If he tries to go somewhere else, like b5 for instance, then Lenderman will just simply play king. I'm sorry, if he tries to go to b6, then Wesley So will just play king to d5. So king d6, and now bishop d1 attacking the a4 pawn, and this pretty much forces this move f5 check. And this is a concession that So is happy to cause Lenderman to make, because he's putting another pawn on a light square. Of course, he would love to just be able to play a move like king e6. The problem here is that after king e6, then bishop g4 check. And of course, after king d6, bishops would get exchanged. And then you can see that white will be winning. So in order to stop this from happening, he's pretty much forced to shut down the king side. So now that the king side is shut down, Wesley is able to go back to plan A, which was to round up the A4 pawn. And now you notice with the pawn on F5, there's no way for Lenderman to penetrate over to the king side. So king D3, bishop B5, king C2, bishop C4, king D2, now king C1, and now you see Lenderman looking for counterplay here, planning to go to E4, but there's the bishop again, so it cuts him off with bishop C2, bishop C1. And notice the bishop doesn't only cut off the king, but it also attacks the F5 pawn. So it's attacking F5 and A4. So now a lot of pressure is on white's position, on black's position, excuse me. King B1, king C4, king A2, king B5, and now Wesley So has realized his plan, but still, how do you win? So king A3, and now you have two pieces attacking the A4 pawn, so king A5 and bishop D1. So now here Wesley has to try to create another weakness on the board, which is known as the principle of two weaknesses. It's very hard to win often with one advantage in chess. You usually need an accumulation of advantages. So here he needs at least two. He only has one, and so Lenderman is able to defend the A pawn, and the rest of the maneuvers will be based on Wesley's idea to try to create another weakness in the position. So bishop D7, and now bishop H5, bishop C6. Again, they're just shuffling pieces around. Bishop B5. Of course, the trade would lead to draw. The trade bishops. Bishop D7, bishop D5. Now king B5, bishop F7, and now bishop C4, bishop C8, bishop E2, bishop comes back in. Again, there's the pressure again, but no progress has been made by Wesley So. So still probing. And now bishop F3. And as you can see, as long as Lenderman has the one weakness, he can focus his defenses on that. So bishop D5, bishop D7, bishop A2, bishop C8. So Lenderman's idea is just to shuffle the bishop, basically uh, on bishop, on a c8, um, between c8 and e8 to protect those two pawns on the light squares. Bishop e1, bishop e6, bishop c2, bishop d7. Now here's a critical moment in the game. So Wesley, really realizing he can't make any progress, he plays this move h5, which almost puts black in a zugzwang position, whereby any move that he does will be detrimental to him. Um, but Wesley, Lenderman has a move that he can make, but the dilemma that he's facing here is that if he moves this light square bishop off the diagonal, he's either going to drop the a pawn or he's going to drop the f pawn. So, for instance, if he moves the bishop c8, then bishop a4. If he moves the king, bishop a4. If he moves the bishop to e8, again he loses the f pawn. So what to do here? So after being under all of that pressure, Lenderman goes for the move bishop e8. After all, he figures he'll drop the f pawn, but he'll gain the h pawn. Unfortunately for him, this is the cause of his downfall, and the position just collapses immediately. So after bishop takes f5, bishop takes h5, there's a strong pass pawn here, f5, and of course the king is forced to run over to the other side of the board, and this is what I was talking about with the principle of two weaknesses. Now black can no longer maintain the a pawn and stop the f pawn from queening, so he winds up giving up the a pawn, and then the position deteriorated from here, and Wesley will go on to win a fine game with the extra material. And 2 pawns against the bishop is enough here. And then this is just a simple king and pawn endgame. So Wesley went on to win that game. But the question is, was it a draw or not? And I think it was a draw. The reason is instead of playing this move h5, instead of playing bishop e8 after h5, Lenderman should have opted for the move c4 here. And after c4, I really don't see how Wesley could win at this point, although there are 3 pawns on the light squares for black. Because the king would then be able to move back and forth between the A and B files, protecting the pawns, and there's really nothing that white can do to really even try to penetrate the position. Even once the white king comes around to the D file again, the black king can go on C5 and kind of just wait it out while the bishop just shuffles back and forth on the E8 to A4 diagonal. And then Wesley has put a pawn, committed a pawn to the light squares himself, so he would always have to worry about that being captured also. So with that said, I think the move C4 is the drawing move and could have saved the game for Lenderman. But again, being under pressure for 35 to 40 moves, at eventually, anybody is probably going to break. So that's the story of that game. I hope you enjoyed that game. I would love to hear your comments below. I didn't use an engine to analyze, so if I missed something, just let me know. I kind of just thought of the variations off the top of my head. So anyway, that's one of the best games of the tournament in my opinion, because Wesley So basically just exhausted Lenderman in that game, and he also scored 8 out of 9, which is very impressive. Although it's just a rapid championship, it's still very impressive. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Please do all the stuff you're supposed to do, like and subscribe. Um, Check the links below. I will put some videos down there related to the end game, and also donate to my channel if these videos have helped you in any way. All right, and any questions or comments, just hit me in the message box. All right, talk to you later.